Hey, Mako Monsters. It's been a while since we've done one of these program overviews. Today is going to be probably one of the more comprehensive overviews we've ever done as far as programming and where we are and what this block entails. The goal here is to talk about the methods, why we're using them, how we're implementing them, and how you can get the most out of your training at Mako. Again, I know some of you guys have different goals, but at the end of the day, we are trying to focus on making people stronger, faster, and healthier. And here are the methods that we use to basically ensure that we continue consistent change and consistent improvement. All right, so before we get into that, we have two events we want to go over. First is the Mako Monster Mash. All right, we have that October 22nd. Male, female. It's going to be a ton of fun, guys. We're going to have a lot of prizes and just having a good time. If you guys have not yet signed up, do so by October 21st to guarantee yourself a t-shirt. Also, there's a bonus raffle if you sign up before the end of next week. It doesn't have to be Mako members if you guys are looking at somebody just to be a partner with. I believe if you are doing most of the workouts as performance, as prescribed, the RX is going to be totally fine. And then if you're not, then the scaled is going to be a great division as well. All right. Another event coming up is the Pensacola Beach Brawl. We know we have some of you guys competing. We will also be out there with the booth running workouts. So just come out and see us, come out and support your other Mako members. And if you have never even seen a competition, it's a great competition to go see and to go out and see the vendors and kind of see, if that's something that you want to do. And then obviously, maybe that'll help you kind of make a decision on that Monster Mash coming up the following month. All right, let's get into the programming. So our current block is going to be from September 12th to November 6th. So it's 8 weeks long. The cycles and the way that we're going to do an entire cycle is 9 days. So the way that is just it keeps things from being always on Monday, always on Tuesday, always on Wednesday. That 9-day block essentially allows us to get 6 sessions of each of the focuses with a deload at different variations or different points in time for each of them. Okay, so that's what we're going to be looking at. That's how we keep it kind of fresh. Again, 8 weeks is what we're looking at here to make the change. So lower body focus. We're going to be working on the back squat. We've been hammering it. We're going to be doing absolute strength here. So we're looking at really trying to train 80% is where we're, or 75, 80%, but then we're hitting that 85%. And this will get progressively tougher. All right, so we hit that AMRAP at 85% this past week. Next week, it'll be the same rep schemes, except we're going to be basing it on what you hit that week. So if you were less than 5 reps, you'll just do the same percentages and focusing on just getting more reps there at 85%. If you were 5 to 9 reps, then we're going to add basically 2 or 3% per set as that increases. So you'll just increase the load slightly. And if you hit 10 or more reps on that last set, we're going to be actually moving up, and the last AMRAP will be at 90%. Because again, that we're using these as training loads. Some of you guys have better neuromuscular efficiency or are able to handle higher volume loads, higher intensity loads for more volume. That's why we're kind of making this based on the person and where you're at, and to allow you to kind of increase the weight, week to week. So after that, the other day we're going to be doing deadlifts, and this is going to be mostly focusing on speed strength. So we want to think about, we haven't really done a 1 rep max deadlift, and so we're going to work on building to a tough double, but it's going to be on the minute. So it's going to kind of limit where we're at. You might end up hitting 80% for a tough double, and then we're going to base our percentage work of the deadlift on that double. All right. In the following weeks, we'll be doing 6 sets of clusters. So it's a 1 and a 1, and that'll be basically you rest 10 seconds in between sets, and then, in between reps, and then 90 seconds is going to be when those sets are done. What this is going to do is we're going to try to build speed off of the floor. So it's getting set and then driving the bar, working on the bar path, and just thinking about keeping these reps, the individual pulls, very quick and very explosive off the floor. All right, so we want to make sure that we have that technique dialed in. This load should be something you do well, so we'll kind of vary it, based on how you're doing. That 80% of the tough double might be a little bit heavier, might be a little lighter, depending on where you're at. Now, week to week, we're just going to add a rep to the cluster. So we're just going to basically add 6 reps per week, and basically double our volume by week 5 from week 3. And again, just monitoring that, we may adjust, how heavy, how light that is based on what we're seeing. So that's why it's super important that you guys are logging in WOD up. All right, the last lower body focus for the block is going to be plyometrics, and we're just going to be working on the explosiveness. Now, we do a lot of box jumps and workouts, and that'll keep up. And we're just going to kind of get a little touch on this because, with the back squat and deadlift already being a pretty heavy focus, it's going to be kind of hard to, add those in. But we will do it on like a contrast and contrast sets, which means basically you do something that's fairly heavy. So we'll do deadlifts basically slightly heavier than what we did maybe this last week 5. And then you'll go right into 2 tall box jumps. Okay, so we'll be working on that explosiveness, and then we'll just kind of add reps per week for the last 2 weeks. All right, so that kind of takes care of the lower body. Again, guys, we're working on that. We'll probably go through this whole phase, and then we'll kind of see where we're at. And, we may start doing some tempos. It's really important, though, that as this weight keeps increasing, just keep your reps consistent. Remember that range of motion is the most important thing here. If you have to go up and then your reps start getting shorter, adjust the weight down, because again, we just want to take our time. This is more of a patient method thing where we're just trying to say, hey, we're going to make small jumps, small increments. And if we don't hit the target that we're looking to do, all we're going to do is be adding reps that following week. All right, upper body focus. Strict press is going to be our absolute strength. This is going to be, we're really going to be working a lot more density of the volume. It's not going to be like these huge jumps like it was for that, the 3 sets of 5, basically for the back squat. A little bit different method here. It'll be on the 2 minutes. It's going to be 5, 5, 3, 3, 3 for the first week. And that first set should basically be at 70%. And then we're going to allow you to add 1 to 3% each set. So we should be building every single set. The following week, we'll bump it up 5%. So you go a 5% jump for 5, and then the same thing. You'll just kind of, as the load gets higher, the volume will go down, and the same thing for that last set. Okay, so we're not looking at this last week of this 1 rep max. It might not be like a true 1 rep max. So, kind of keep that in mind as if you're like, oh, I didn't get a PR or whatever. It's more important to kind of think about we're really building volume in that, starting at that 70 to 80 to 85% range. And then by the end of this, we're going to be putting a lot of volume at around 90%. And that's okay. And that's what we're going to be looking to do to build that strict press. It does take a lot longer to build the strict press because the increments, or at least it seems like it is, because the incremental jumps, if you get a 5-pound PR on a strict press, it's a huge deal. So kind of keep that in mind as you're working on this, is try to push these sets to being heavy, especially, these last 2 sets, this 3-3, 2-2, and then 2-1. Those last sets, making sure that we're really trying to push the weight there and drive the needle above 90% of what your 1 rep max is to consider that stuff heavy. Okay, we're going to be working some unilateral pressing and pulling, and this will be just like the main focus of this is balance in the programming, hypertrophy, and we're going to be adding in some speed. So we kind of mentioned those contrast sets, our contrast training earlier, which is basically doing something and moving something very heavy. So we're going to move something, moderately heavy to heavy, and then you're going to roll right into something that should be very fast. So that could be banded, could be plyometrics, anything like that. And what this does is allow us to build strength and speed and work on, the explosiveness of the movement to allow you to kind of think about moving a little bit faster. So what we have here is week 1, it'll be kind of a heavier press, a dumbbell push press. Again, when it says heavy, it's really important that you guys move something that is tough. So if it's heavy for 5, that maybe you have like 2 reps left in the tank, 1 to 2 reps left in the tank. If you have like 5 or 6 reps left, it's really not heavy. So knowing that the dumbbells are a little bit, tougher to kind of like make jumps on, you always could do a strict press there too, instead of the push press, just to try to think about taking the legs out of it and work on the press. And we may end up adjusting that for everybody anyway. And then you're going to go right into 5 per side banded presses. So we're just going to hook the band up, press them as fast as we can, working on that speed, working on that contrast set. And then it's just going to be a pin leg kettlebell row for that horizontal pulling on the next minute. Now the next week, we'll be mixing it into a Metcon, kind of same thing, kind of pushing weight a little bit heavier, trying to learn how to move weight a little bit faster, a little bit higher skill, but it's also going to be like a longer, 2 minutes of work, 90 seconds, 2 minutes of work into that. So we're going to go those push jerks, sprint, and then alternating dumbbell power snatches. And then each round, you're just going to try to move as fast as you can and try to push the weight as heavy as you can move unbroken. So we'll kind of be working on some muscular endurance with the pull, and on that push jerk, basically just working on the movement and trying to push weight as heavy as we can. And then that last week, we'll be doing a higher volume contrast set where we have a tempo kneeling press and do like 10 push-ups as fast as possible. And if you can do like a clapping push-up, that's what we'll be looking to do. If you can do a just like leaving the ground push-up, that's what we'll do. Or you could even do a banded push-up where you actually have your hips on the band and you're going to try to, again, leave the ground, but they have to be as fast as possible and really working on being explosive. And we'll do 5 sets of that. All right. Last upper body piece that we're going to be focusing on is going to be ring dips. Okay, so our biggest thing is building strength through range of motion. As we talk about, the ring dip and improving skills in gymnastics, especially when it comes to the rings, having the shoulder stability and having strength at the bottom of the dip and at the top of the dip is super important. So we've already kind of worked on that tempo dip, just kind of working on max sets, seeing where everybody is. May adjust this week too, just as I look back at where everybody was. But looking at 2 to 3, we're increasing the tempo. We're going to work through that. And then we'll move into, we'll have like a week off where we're not doing that. We might do a little higher volume in a Metcon. And then a week 4, it'll be basically we'll work into holds, so the top hold, and then into max strict dips, which is -2. And our goal there will obviously be to get a lot more than what we get with the tempo, because with that tempo, it's going to really kind of limit us with that much time under tension, is that, we might be focusing on trying to get 8 to, even 15 or 16 for some people on those strict dips -2. And I would, if you did the ring dips on the tempo, I would stick with the ring dip on this. Whatever you did for those tempo dips, basically stick to it for those max sets. Or you could do the ring support hold, and then you could move into the dip as well and just try to push volume. But -2 is just close to failure. Okay, so you're getting close to failure there. So that kind of sums up the upper body pressing. And pulling. Again, pulling isn't a major focus, but it's super important to think that like we will get that balance, and that'll be in our conditioning. So in our conditioning, like the CrossFit style workouts, yesterday we had a run, dumbbell power snatch and box jump, very CrossFit, classic CrossFit workout, and pushes a lot of it fills the gaps of everything that we do. Okay. So we really try to think about when we are programming, every week you should see squatting, pressing, upper body pulling, lunging, hinging, which is like a deadlift, and then carries. I think that is really what the base of every program, no matter what your goal is, should have. But especially in a general physical preparedness program or a strength and conditioning program, which I consider the class program to be, is that we need to be doing those every week consistently. And so that's where we kind of fill the gaps with the CrossFit workouts. We also fill the gaps with the Thursday workouts as well. But that's also where we'll be looking at, like, we're doing a lot of pressing as a standalone thing in the programming. That means we'll probably have a lot more pulling. And really, like, I love the strict pull-up in the Metcons, and you guys might have noticed that we do a lot more strict pull-ups than maybe some other gyms in Metcons. And what it does is it allows us to buffer intensity. So if you had to do 10 kipping pull-ups or butterfly pull-ups or even jumping pull-ups, you're going to do those in rapid successions, and you're going to be able to move on to the next movement. But what we do is we actually use a strict pull-up, thinking that you're going to have to do that in maybe 2 to 3 sets. It allows us to buffer the intensity, so if we have 2 other intense movements in there, that we know that when we get to that one, the pure muscular endurance fatigue will set in, and you'll have to take a little break. It'll lower the heart rate, and we can focus on just that upper body pulling strength and being able to do that. Now, other things that we'll be working on is muscular endurance, pressing, and pulling. So like I said, if we're doing heavy pressing, but we still want to try to think about getting, we have to get the triceps stronger. We're trying to work on building the delts and the shoulders and the chest. Then we're going to be hitting some more like higher volume stuff in the Metcons. I have a movement that's programmed next week that's a little bit different, which is a quarter squat wall ball, which is a lot different than an actual wall ball. But the entire goal there is to be able to continuously be pressing and get the contraction volume high on the pressing with a light load. So we'll be focusing on that, just mixing up some different things. And then, we're buffering the intensity with that one by adding in like a dumbbell hang power clean and then a walk, because it'll allow you to kind of lower your heart rate before you get back on that ball. So kind of keep in mind, like, there is a reason for that and why we're doing it, and why we program certain movements with other things. Like, maybe we're like, hey, you have to do this, and then you're going to walk 100 meters. It's allow you to set the recovery and allow you to push the intensity when it's time to work. Barbell cycling, barbell work will be mostly in the CrossFit stuff. We've done a lot of power cleans. And then this block, we're basically going to be working on the deadlift more specifically to allow us to build that speed. So they're not going to be, we're not going to go completely away from power cleans, hang power cleans, things like that. But we are going to focus on that more in a CrossFit setting, where we have, manageable loads and manageable reps in a conditioning setting. Okay, Thursdays, I do want to try to push a little more run focus. As you guys know, it is a little tougher sometimes in the new facility to push run focus, just because, the running course is okay, but then at night it gets a little, you kind of worry about, where everybody's running and safety and things like that we have to consider. So we are working on that, and those are things that I'm trying to create better SOPs for that. But just if you ever feel uncomfortable running, biking is always going to be the move. So do not feel like you have to run if it says run. And if you have any issues, you see anybody out there on the course that's kind of just being a little weird, a little creepy, let us know immediately during your workout, and so we can start policing it and making sure everybody's safe. Safety is the number one thing when it comes to running. So kind of keep that in mind and help us, help keep everybody safe. So what we'll do on Thursdays, it'll continue to add balance to the week. So we'll do single leg stuff, single arm stuff, carries. Obviously, we do a lot of carries in that, a lot of sled stuff. And movement quality will always be the focus. So always trying to think about improving your movement patterns, improving your range of motion, moving nice and smooth. And you can use this day multiple different ways. So this could become an aerobic compensation day, or active recovery is what that other word for that would be. Or you can actually work on, building up your aerobic threshold and thinking about building up your aerobic capacity in this as well. So here's a practical guide to pacing that I have put together down here. As we look at like a conversation, meaning a consistent conversation, I never have to take a break. I'm talking basically like I am now. Maybe I can take a little more time between sentences. Then we're looking at that being a perceived effort, or actually a max. Your heart rate's probably around 50 to 70% of your max heart rate. And I gave a general like guideline as far as like 125 to 145 for most everybody here. Plus or minus basically 5 beats per minute for all of these is about right. So kind of keep that in mind, is like that's what we're looking at doing, and you should be able to recover very well going into the next day when moving at a pace like that. Now, as we look at like shorter sentences where I got to take a little breath, maybe now I was only breathing in and out of the nose at the first one. Now I'm in the nose, out the mouth. It's a little bit more laboring. I have to kind of take a little bit more break. I have to think about my sentences being a little more short. Then you're probably at roughly 70 to 80% of your max heart rate. And again, a range of a roughly, 145 to 165 plus or minus 5 beats per minute. And at that threshold, like, that is where we will build the most aerobic capacity. Our heart rate isn't pumping so fast and so hard that we don't get the long, slow contraction of the heart that allows the heart to grow. And we're also have ability to basically, push out. We're not building up lactic acid. We're not getting super sore. It's not going to add to it. And we can recover pretty well from these workouts too, depending on the time domain that they are ran in. Okay. And then lastly, which I don't think you shouldn't do this day, but if maybe you missed several days and this is the only day you're coming, you're like, I'm going to get after it. Then, you cannot speak. You're kind of pushing more of, anaerobic threshold. There's a typo here, but anaerobic threshold. And that's going to be 80 plus, and that's 80 plus percent. So, we're now at like 175, 180. And then obviously there's actually more heart rate zones as we get further up that chain. But this is just becomes a little bit faster, a little bit harder. and if you're always someone who goes really hard, I would avoid going that hard on days like this, especially if you're trying to get better at being able to move at a consistent pace and not get tired, all right? So thinking about movement economy and fuel economy and being able to just breathe and stay steady. Once you get into this, we're no longer really training that, and that's a gear that you want to have when you have to go hard and you have to push, but it is going to affect your recovery. It is going to affect your ability to just keep your heart rate down as you're moving in other workouts. So kind of keep that in mind. So having a direct plan for your intensities can really help determine like when you go hard, and when you're just going to pace it out. It'll create like a more sustainable plan for you training. If you're training 5 days in a row, we already write workouts that I believe that mix that up. I mean, my goal is always, if you did come 5 days, it's really hard for you to mess that up by going too hard every day. So we try to write workouts that will kind of buffer that just in general. But honestly, knowing this and kind of learning this and even practicing it, especially on Thursdays, will allow you guys to really start thinking about how to have a better plan, a more sustainable plan for training, allow you to train more often, right? As far as like if you're coming 5 days, 6 days a week, and you're adding in, walking days, easy bike days, sled days, which I have a whole thing on sleds here recently that I would love to teach you guys about at some point. But if you guys have any other questions and you want to learn more about heart rate training, especially as it applies to like how you're training in the gym, how you're recovering, I love talking about that stuff. So just come seek me out and we'll sit and talk about it. We may do like an entire lecture on heart rate training and how to use it for our class stuff, but only if you guys are interested in it. So just keep that in mind. That's it. I hope I didn't speak too quickly on this and you guys got something out of it, but any follow-up questions you have, just please reach out. You can, you could post it at the cooler on Wad Up. That's probably the fastest way I'll see it. If you have questions, just post it to the cooler on Wad Up. Or, you could do it in the Facebook group where I'll post this. And then any comments on the YouTube, I probably won't see. So just kind of keep that in mind. Just reach out directly. All right, guys, I'm excited about this block. Again, let's get after it. Let's have fun. Let's stay consistent.